Hello everybody, it's Kirk, and we're back with KSP. Um, I'm making this video to bring you guys along on a journey. We've got Jebediah here, looking all pumped up and psyched to be out in space, because he's right next to this thing. It is called the Voyager. It's not pretty, but it is going places. As its namesake suggests, we will be attempting a voyage to the outer reaches of our solar system. Now, before Jeb drifts away into space here, let me go ahead and give you a rundown of what it is. So we've got 4 nuclear engines for our power plant. We've got 5 fully laden orange tanks of fuel, plus an additional pod. But we'll talk about that in a second. So hopefully this amount of fuel will get us all the way to Eeloo, and hopefully we'll be able to also return. We plan on landing and doing a bunch of science there. I'll go ahead and show you the lander once I get Jeb back in. We've got an orbiter probe that will be leaving in orbit there, and yeah, let me go ahead and get Jeb back in here, and we'll go ahead and talk about how I've gone ahead and designed this thing. Come on, Jeb. Back in your command pod. Working a little fast there. Grab. Oh yeah. Okay. So we've got Jeb in the cupola, because every interplanetary ship needs a cupola, and he'll be piloting us today. Let's go ahead and bring up the HUD here. We've got Bill and Bob in the crew storage container here. We've got a lander. It's about 20 tons. 4 of these engines here. I've got all of the possible scientific instrumentation on here. Hopefully it'll be able to land and return from Eeloo orbit, or into Eeloo orbit. This thing right here is basically just to balance out the lander. It's about the same weight, and we're also going to use it as a drop tank for the lander, for the initial landing, just to make sure that this thing's got enough fuel to make it down and come back. It's not capable of a whole lot on Kerbal. I think I got it to reach about 7,000 meters on Kerbal from a dead stop. But what I really like about this ship is how modular it is. You can swap out these tanks. You can add tanks, or if you're going, if you want to go to one of the closer planets like say Duna or Eve, you can use fewer tanks, and this will really be its maiden voyage. I've never used this ship before, but as you can tell, the fact that it's modular like this means that it's also easily refueled. The command pod and the habitat also detach and have independent RCS, so in the event of an emergency, we can detach the drive stage here, maybe one of these tanks, and recombine the pieces to form a different ship. I launched this all in about, I want to say 8 launches. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So it took 8 launches to bring this thing into orbit. And it took a while. It took about a day. So I'm sorry I didn't bring you guys along for that ride, but as you can tell, it was rather tedious. So why are we going to Eeloo? Well, let's go ahead and go to the Space Center here, and I'll show you why. Oh, by the way, this will also allow me to show you what I've got going here. So this is a career mode save. So I've got probes pretty much all over the place in the neighborhood of Kerbal. There's quite a hefty debris field going around here. These are all like parts that that I've launched to build the ship, or parts that are just in space for my career mode game. So I've got this lander probe here is a piece of the launcher that I used to bring the lander up. Then there's a piece of the launcher that I used to bring the frame up. But I've got a probe landed on the moon. I don't have one on Minmus. I did have one, but I tried to return it, and it crashed on Kerbal. What else? I've got obviously a probe on Duna. There's also some debris here from a manned mission I did to plant a flag and do some science there. I didn't get to land on Ike because unfortunately I ran out of fuel, but hopefully this new ship is going to fix that problem, and I'll be able to visit Duna and Ike a little bit more thoroughly. Let's see what else. There's also a probe on Gilly. I was able to on Eve. This was fairly straightforward. If you can go to Eve, you can if you can go to Duna, you can go to Eve pretty much on the same ship. Also landed on Gilly, but I didn't leave anything there. And which brings me to the reason I'm making this video. You can see here there's a ship titled Dre's Lander, but it's on Eeloo. This is because I tried to land on Dre's, and I did a Hoffman transfer, so I planned, and unfortunately I wasn't able to complete the burn and also avoid a lunar encounter. So I figured, you know what, I knew it would kick me higher than I would normally want, but I figured let's go ahead and do this and see what happens. We'll be able to work with it because I had quite a bit of fuel left. So in true Kerbal fashion, it actually threw me like halfway to Jewel, and I just kept going. It took a really long time to get here. If you're familiar with Hoffman transfers in KSP, you know that time acceleration can take a really long time, and this is more so in the, I'm not even sure you guys can see anything here, but here it is. It's landed, it's collecting data. It's nighttime right now though, so we're not able to transmit because that would kill the probe, would run out of batteries, so we're not going to do that. But yeah, I was saying time acceleration takes a really long time, and in the case of Eeloo, a year on Eeloo is about 6 Kerbal years. And even with 100,000 times time acceleration, it still takes a really long time. So this video is going to be cut up into pieces. I'll bring you guys along for the important parts, for burns and planning maneuvers and that, but we'll keep the time acceleration out of it. So, like I said, this is a career mode game, so all of the parts that you see on Voyager have actually been unlocked. So there's that's the reason that some parts that might be obvious to you guys are missing, such as the Gigantor. Oh man, everything's in the middle of the night. Such as the Gigantor solar panels. That's the reason I don't have them. I haven't unlocked them. I deemed them unnecessary for the time being. But let's go ahead and have a look at some of the stats on this thing, because it is huge. It is almost 260 tons floating out in space. It's fully laden with fuel. That's bigger than the mass of some of the launches I did to build it. So hopefully it's got enough oomph to actually get where it's going. 218 parts. Hopefully it's not going to be too laggy, and we'll be able to do this. We're taking 3 Kerbals to Eeloo. We're only landing 2 of them, however, because that's the amount of room that we have in the lander, and so one of them is going to be stuck in one of these habs for the next 12 or so years. That's not counting the time acceleration I'll have to do to set up the transfer. If you're not sure how to set up these transfers, if you're planning, oh look, more debris. If you're not sure about how to plan these transfers and get to other planets, if you're a beginner, what you do is you go to a website called ksp.olex.biz, and what it does is it does all the relatively uncomplicated mathematics that you need to do in order to compute what angle you need to start your burn on relative to Kerbin's prograde, and what the angle should be between Kerbin, the planet, and Kerbin, the sun, and the planet that you're going to. It's really, really handy and intuitive to use, so I recommend it fully. There should be a link in the description below. But yeah, enough of that about that. Let's go ahead and go to the moment where where all the planets are lined up, and we can do this. Hopefully, it won't be too long from now. So I'll see you guys then. So we've time accelerated until the point where ksp.olex.biz tells us we should do our burn. Now the problem with Eeloo is that it's on a highly eccentric orbit, so regular Hawking transfers don't really work all that well. Not only is it on this really sort of oval, highly elliptic orbit, it's also really inclined. It's got a high inclination to the plane of the ecliptic on which all the other planets are located, well, for the most part. So we are probably not going to be able to burn straight into an encounter. It's doable. It takes a lot of planning and perfect execution, and knowing me, perfect execution isn't really something that's going to happen. Although I do know in theory what I'm supposed to do. Planning it out, playing it out the way I'm supposed to doesn't usually work out. So just to sort of do a mock-up of the mission here, I'm going to set up a few maneuvers. Now, the site also tells us what angle we're supposed to start the maneuver at relative to Kerbin's prograde motion. Now, you don't have to zoom out all the way like this to check what the direction is, because you can get the direction of Kerbin's prograde motion just by looking at the terminator line. Okay, the sun is directly that way. Its light from the sun is perpendicular to the equator here, and the terminator line is tangent to the orbit. So you can use the angle between the terminator line and your orbit, assuming your orbit is circular, to determine roughly where you're supposed to burn. So it said 100 some degrees, so we're gonna add a maneuver here. What we'll do is we'll just tug on this. Of course, I forgot to set it as my target. So set that as target. Now we have to zoom all the way back in again because KSP is like that. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what this is going to take. Now I'm guessing about 2,000 delta V, something like that. Okay. We're starting to go up here. That is really hefty speed. Okay, so we've reached the orbit of Eeloo at close to its closest point to the sun, but like I said, its orbit is highly inclined, so 6 degrees, that's a fair distance. Eeloo is a pretty small rock, so we're well outside the area of influence there. So what we'll do is we'll set up another maneuver here, close to the node. Basically, what we'll do is we'll try to do a plane alignment, and this should bring the orbits a little bit closer. And what I want to do is have the encounter, or the closest approach, be at or near one of these nodes. So we're going to need to burn a little bit more. There we go. And we're able to get an encounter this way. Now, because this will be happening in 312 days, I'm not even going to try to tweak this to get it closer, because a very, very small variation in the speed that we get when we start our burn will make a huge difference when we get to Eeloo. So I'm not even going to try, because pilot error is going to mean I'm not going to be anywhere near close. So, and on top of that, because we have such a massive ship, this is going to take several orbits. So we'll start our burn now, or pretty soon, and we'll have to go around the planet multiple times. So now that we have this set up, it's about 4 minutes until the burn. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm able to, I'm going to spin the ship around and try to get set up for the maneuver, and at least get maybe a couple of minutes of it out of the way. And that way we should also get some kind of an estimate as to how long it's going to take. I'm guessing it's going to be a fair while. Now, I'm not really good at figuring out where on the nav ball the maneuver is supposed to be. So what I do is I just spin her around until I can see it. So let's go ahead and try to get it at least close to here. Okay, and just to stop the ship, I'm going to use SAS, and hopefully it won't shake itself apart. Alright. Now, before I do a test burn to gauge the amount of time we'll need to do this, I'm going to also disable the crossfeed on this particular junction, so that we don't get fuel drained from places that we don't want it to drain. So we want to empty out this tank and then use manual fuel transfer to move fuel from these two in the back here, and then when we're done, when they're done, we can discard them and move forward from there. But I really want it to be done correctly. So let's go ahead and do a quick test burn here. These engines are not active, so only these engines here will be firing. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Okay, so it's going to be 32 minutes. So this is going to take quite a few orbits. So I'm going to start the first burn in about 30 seconds here, so we can burn 3 minutes at a time, and then I'll bring you guys back in from time to time to show you guys the progress. So because it's so massive and these engines are puny when it comes to thrust, this is going to take a while. And I have no lights on. Just, yeah. So let's go ahead and start burning. Now. Hopefully I've made this rigid enough that it won't flex too much. But yeah, I'll see you guys when this burn is over, so we can check our progress. So see you in 2 minutes. It is 2 minutes later. I've time accelerated for a little bit after I finished the burn, so we're in daylight, so we can see what's going on. As you can tell, barely made a dent in the delta V requirement here, but then again, we barely made a dent in the amount of fuel that we've got, so we should be good. Let's go ahead and have a look at our orbit and see how much of a difference that made. So you can tell, not much. We used to be on this high orbit here, and we've barely gained 200, not even 200 kilometers in altitude on our apoapsis. So what we'll do is we'll have to set up this maneuver again, because obviously the timer's off and everything else is off. So we need 1786.4 meters per second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this maneuver from here, and because this is, and this one from here, and because this is the approximate point where we started our burn, it now became our periapsis. So it's a good marker for us to put up another burn. So I said 1786.4. So we're gonna set up another burn. 6.2.4. Oh, sorry. So let's see if that does the exact same thing or not. And it approximately does. I deleted that maneuver from here. I think you might be able to keep that one, and it might compute them back up again. But I'm not too sure. So we'll be able to set it up once we're out of Kerbin's sphere of influence, and we should be good then. But I'm gonna go ahead and do this next burn, and I'll see you when it's done. Okay, and we're done with the second burn. We've gone through a fair amount of fuel from this tank, so I'm pretty sure we'll be discarding one of these tanks by the time we're done, or maybe we'll drain them equally and discard both of them at the same time to make sure we're balanced. I don't know. We'll see. But let's go ahead and have a look at what our progress is here. So as you can tell, not much from the last time. We've gained about 300,000 kilometers. 300 kilometers. So not much. We'll have to do this all over again a few more times. So I'll see you guys when we make some significant progress. So be right back. Okay, so we're about to start our 6th burn. As you can tell here on the lower left side, we've gone through almost a full tank, well, 2/3 of a tank, and we're still in Kerbin orbit, although it's looking much better. Now I'm gonna start this next burn at T-2 minutes, and when I set up the last maneuver node, I noticed that I only need about 250 some more delta V to become interplanetary, so I'm gonna try and shoot for that right now, and hopefully we'll be able to make it, because if not, we'll be really close to being interplanetary, and that's going to be one long orbit, and I'm afraid that will it might make a difference. So the amount of time that we have to wait in order for that orbit to be completed might actually make a difference in the angle between the planets. Now, I know I didn't set it up all that precisely when I first set up the maneuver node, but I was able to get some semblance of an encounter fairly easily. So I'm going to start this burn right now, and I'm going to bring you guys back when it's done, and we'll see how we did. So check back in. Alright, so about 30 seconds left in our burn. Really low on fuel on this tank, but we are making significant progress. Apoaps is going steadily up pretty quickly here, so I'm just going to continue this burn until the 1,000 delta V requirement is met, but I'm just going to keep you guys with me here until we go interplanetary. And we're stretching out past the orbit of Minmus now. And it shouldn't be too long. Alright, and Voyager is on its way. We're slowly, very slowly starting to see our sun apoapsis rise here. So I'll bring you guys back when we're close to getting the orbit we want. So I'm just bringing you guys back to show you that we're about to run out of fuel. So we'll need to transfer some fuel into this tank. In order to do that and not flame out our engines, though, what we'll do is we'll cut the thrust all the way and then re-enable the crossfeed on this junction here. And we're going to transfer half the fuel from this tank and then half from this tank into the central tank here. So we'll need 1440 and 1760. Okay, that's close enough. 1760 oxidizer. And then we'll have to readjust our okay, that's close enough. We'll also have to readjust our position here because obviously we're not in the same spot anymore. So we'll have to reposition the ship so it's pointing prograde. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And phone. Okay, so phone call over. We've repositioned the ship. We're refueled. We can go ahead and continue our burn once we get stabilized here. We want to be right on the prograde marker. And SAS on. Burn on. So I'll see you guys when this burn is over, or close to being over. It's gonna be a long burn, 15 minutes. See you then. And we're back. We have almost gone through the second large tank of fuel, and I just wanted to show you guys our progress. We're just outside the orbit of Dre's right now, which means that as far as that first burn that we set up is concerned, we're about past halfway. I had to go ahead and remove the maneuver node that I had set up because it was set up over here and it was in that direction. So it was giving weird readings. I've been burning continuously since the ship was about here, and as you can see, we've traveled quite a ways since then, so the reading on that was no longer accurate. Yeah, I'll bring you guys back in when we're done with this tank. So see you then. And the fuel ran out on the second tank, so we'll have to fill it back up from these two tanks. And these two tanks should probably be on fumes by then, and we'll be able to let them go, thereby lowering our mass and continue burning. So let's go ahead and do that. In. Turn off the engine. Okay, and in and in. Okay, so there you go. Those two tanks are empty. We're gonna detach them. First of all, let's do a quick save right here. I've mentioned this before, I'm not the save scumming type, but it does take quite a bit of effort to set this all up, so in the event of a system crash or anything like that, I really don't want to lose all of this progress. So let's go ahead and undock this, and undock this, to just give it a little puff and say goodbye to those tanks. Let's go ahead and have a look at our mass here. No, that's not what I mind. Okay, so we started out with 260 tons and we've just burned through or ditched about 80 tons. So we are significantly lighter, and hopefully we'll be able to notice this in our fuel consumption. So let's go ahead and start burning again, and I'll see you when we get closer. Alright, so from this top view, our projected orbit is intersecting the orbit of Eeloo. But if we have a look at it from the side, we can see it's not really quite there yet. The Eeloo's periapse is going to be about here-ish. So we're not quite there just yet, but we will be pretty soon. And I'd say we can call it about there. So we have barely, well, we've not touched it at all. I wonder what's going on. Oh, that's what's going on. Okay, so I forgot to disable the crossfeed here again, and you can see it swaying back and forth, and I'm guessing that's the SAS trying to counterbalance the fact that we're losing weight on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refuel this tank and then disable the crossfeed again. That way we get an accurate gauge of how much fuel we're actually using. So we can stay on top of it, but it's actually looking pretty good. So let's disable that. Now there are two major burns that we still have left to do. We have a plane change left to set up here, and then we have to slow into Dre's orbit, which will be a pretty hefty burn on its own. So let's go ahead and see if we can't manage to set up this maneuver. We'll add it there, and we're going to try to get an Eeloo encounter. Okay. That's not looking particularly hopeful. So even though we were able to get in an encounter when we first tried to set up the maneuver, it's not looking all that good right now. Let's see. Okay, that's actually pretty close. We're past it somehow. I wonder what's going on. There we go. Alright, and we can actually afford to try and tweak this a little bit at least. Because it's going to, we'll be fairly close to planet, so I'm going to get the node to be right on the encounter. So that's 15 million. That might not seem like it's very, and that is about as close as I think we're going to get. So that's our next milestone right there, and we're going to leave that as is because there aren't any burns other than this left for us to do up until that point, so we're going to leave that there and try to manage it. Now meanwhile, we'll go ahead and time accelerate until we are outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence, and we're going to perform our first scientific observations. So let's go ahead and time accelerate this here. Okay. So we're out here. We're gonna have Jeb do an EVA. So come on, Jeb. What's it like out there? You feel kind of small right now. You hope you know what you're doing. So I've done this before when I went to Duna, so the value that you'll see here may vary. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that data and board. And I think I saw something about a crew report that you can do from here. Yeah, you record the crew's assessment of the situation, so I'm going to keep that. And then there are a couple of other things that we can do. We can observe the materials page. A high radiation environment caused a few of the samples to glow. It looks like it would be fun to paint the rocket with this. Okay, we're going to keep that as well. Let's go ahead and observe our mystery goo. The goo feels right at home here. We're going to keep that data too. And I remember setting up a ravioli detector here. There it is. So let's log gravity data. Recorded accurate measurements of gravitational forces in these conditions. That is a lot of science. So we're going to keep that data as well. And let's see what else. I've got some instruments on here. Just don't know if I can get a good enough view of them. Ravioli detector, so I can't do that. Thermometer, can't do that. Temperature, can't do that either. So it looks like those only work if you're on the surface of something or in an atmosphere or something. So let's go ahead and beam this info back down to Kerbin. So transmit data. And we're going to get us a bunch of science done. Okay, so we're done. And I'm going to go ahead and check the map again, and hopefully damn it. The changing spheres of influence has messed up our maneuver. So I'm going to go ahead and set that back up again, and I'll catch up with you guys when we get back to when we get close to the maneuver. So I'll see you then. Almost to the point where we can start the burn. I just wanted to show you guys exactly where we're at. So we've traveled quite a ways away from Kerbal. We're way past the orbit of Duna, and we're about to make the burn that will put us on an Eeloo encounter. Now, odds are we won't be able to get an encounter straight away. We might have to use RCS because the projected encounter that we're seeing here is 300 some days away. So again, any minute error here translates into thousands of kilometers on this end. So let's go ahead and start the burn. And I'll see you guys when it's over. Our mid-burn, and ran into a little bit of an issue here. If you keep an eye on the nav bar and on the torque indicators on the lower left-hand side corner, you'll notice that when I let go of the keys, the ship onto torque over to one side. You can really tell. So I think this has to do with the fact that the lander isn't as well balanced with this counterweight that I set up here as I thought it would be. So this will need to be corrected. But I'm mid-burn right now, so I'll have to keep fighting it until the burn's over, because this needs to be done right now. And then what I'll do is I'll try to see if I can balance it by shifting some of the weight from the lander into the main fuel tank here. And then when we eventually get to the Eeloo, I'll be able to transfer the fuel back to the main. So I'll see you guys when this burn is over, and we'll look at results. Okay, the burn is almost done. We've also somehow inherited some kind of a spin. So it's looking sketchier and sketchier, guys. Just a few more meters per second to go. And we're done. Look at that, almost right on the money. Another trick I learned is a quick time warp back and forth will stabilize your ship, so you don't have to worry about finagling it with your keys. So let's see. Oh man, I cannot believe how well that went, considering I had to manually adjust this. I had it set up to 200,000 meters, but I'll take that. I will definitely take that. Let's see if we can't adjust it by using RCS. Okay, so it's not too sure, but it's definitely below 1,000,000 meters. So I'm actually quite happy with that. But this episode has dragged on for long enough. You guys will have to tune back in for the conclusion of this journey. We'll be landing on Eeloo, and then once we get there, we will be able to revise our chances of getting back to Kerbal. It's looking pretty good right now. We've got half our fuel left. We still have to burn into orbit though, so that might take up the rest of this tank. Probably some more fuel from one of these, but I'm actually pretty optimistic about our chances of getting back from this. We'll see. You'll have to tune in next time. Until then, this was Kirk. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. And I'll see you in part 2.